knowing that you'll respect them in the morning with intelligent talk that stimulates.
Welcome back to Inside the News. Glad to have you with us. All three of us are here. Frank Vernuccio, Ben Brunson, myself, Guy Wehman. And this is our Picking Up the Pieces segment. Let's talk about the polls. And we've seen the polls fluctuate. We saw what happened 4 years ago. Donald Trump was behind. And personally, I think when he's behind, it kind of energizes more of the of his base, and other people, they get out for him rather than be complacent. And I think the Democrats, they want to be ahead on the polls, but I think it's going to hurt them in the long run here, Ben.
Well, on a macro level, everything going on today, the explosion in crime, the destruction of our cities, the ongoing insurrection in the streets, all of this is very favorable for the base of Donald Trump. That is as energized as I've ever seen. I see Trump signs everywhere in Florida. I've yet to see anything in support of Biden anywhere on a lawn or on a bumper sticker. I'm sure it'll come, but it is very strong Trump base. Polls are easily manipulated. That is the well-kept secret, or attempted to be well-kept secret in the polling business. They make assumptions as to voter turnout, and they skew their polls based on whether people admit to being registered Democrats or Republicans or independents, and they try to skew the polls to include the percentages that they think will show up at the polling booth. And it is a ridiculous science. You look at the polls 4 years ago in Florida, I think the final polls going on the eve of the election showed Hillary winning Florida by 4 or 5 percentage points. Even the exit polls coming out during the day had Hillary winning Florida by a significant margin. And of course, Donald Trump won Florida by a meaningful margin at the end. So these polls skew in favor of the left. They are manipulated in many ways to do so. And you have to discount the polls, and you have to look to history to say that Trump will outperform the polls. And that's certainly my expectation.
You know something, Frank, the polls, and you wonder, well, are they trying to manipulate it to the people who pay for the polls? But yet when Ben mentions the exit polling, that's almost like instantaneous. All the networks get that. How could they have been so wrong? That's the most amazing thing.
Because pollsters get answers that the respondents think the pollster wants to hear. Unfortunately, because of the predominance of Democratic leadership of the media companies, most people think that the pollsters want to hear something positive about the Democrat candidate. And so that's the answer that the respondents give the pollsters. When you have the transfer from landlines to cell phones in particular, if you're doing a poll by phone, because of the great onslaught of hate against Donald Trump in the media, people are somewhat almost ashamed of saying that they're going to vote for a Republican candidate. And that skews the polls. What people tell pollsters and what they do when they get behind that curtain in the voting booth are two radically different things. We've seen the polls become totally unreliable in the past couple of years. To some extent, it has to do with media bias, but perhaps to an even greater extent, it has to do with the way polls are now done more on cell phones and on landlines. That's a real significant change.
We talked about the United States Postal Service in our first segment, but Ben, the mail-in voting, absentee ballots, they've been going on for years. What about this universal mail-in, Ben?
It's going to be a fiasco, as we've seen. It is rife with fraud. It goes with the institutionalization of fraud that we've seen in certain states like California, where ballot harvesting is now legal. That should never have been legalized. That is literally the institutionalization of voter fraud. And you're seeing this trying to be imposed on a nationwide basis with these mail-in schemes. You don't have to be a genius to understand the fraud that is going to come as a result of this, where you're going to have probably more voters than you have more votes counted in a lot of precincts than you have registered voters. This is going to be disastrous. We can only hope for, in the end, a clear victory based on traditional polling methods, so that the outstanding vote count associated with mail-in ballots is going to be still outstanding on the night of November 3rd will be irrelevant, and we can actually call a winner and a loser. But this could go very poorly, as it has in states like New York, where you've had fiasco elections just in this election cycle based on these mail-in ballots.
All right, that's going to complete the Picking Up the Pieces segment. We have one more left. We want to thank you so much for watching us and listening to us across the country. We're celebrating 6 years being on the air, and we're actually in our 6th year moving forward. Frank Vernuccio, Ben Brunson, myself, Guy Wehman. We're going to take a time out. We'll be back.
You're listening to Wehman, Brunson, and Vernuccio, Inside the News.